Hi y'all! Thanks for tuning in to Tammy 2's Vintage, where I share my love of thrifting, junking, collecting, and treasure hunting, along with some adventures in reselling too. You might even get a glimpse of my crazy life on the side. Hi y'all, and welcome to Tammy 2's Vintage. I'm Tamara, and today I'm going to show you some items that I picked up on a recent trip to visit my parents. So my parents, I live in Central Texas, down by Austin, and my parents live in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And people who are not from Texas or have not visited here very much don't understand how big Texas really is. So unfortunately, I don't get to visit my parents as much as I would like, and especially with the recent world events, it's been even less. So I went up and spent some time with them, which was really awesome. My mom's cleaning out her house, kind of getting ready to downsize and that kind of thing. So I was able to pick up some things from her from my childhood, which was kind of neat. And then I also hit a few estate sales and some antique malls, and I think one Goodwill while I was up there. So this video, I am going to share with you some of the items that I picked up at the estate sales and Goodwill. Now, since I was up there visiting, I did a lot of shopping for myself, and some of these items are for resale, but more of them are probably going to end up in my own collection. So I'll just warn you of that right away. All right, let's start with the Goodwill finds. So this right here is a neat little studio pottery piece. If you look at it, it's hand thrown. Now, I'm by no means an expert on pottery, and I am still learning about it, but what I was told is if you can see the marks on the inside like this, it's a hand thrown piece instead of a poured piece, because it has those rings on the inside from where they form the piece on the wheel. So that's what I'm assuming this is, unless I find out otherwise. And after it was thrown on the wheel, they made this neat little spout. So I guess it's a creamer or some sort of small pitcher, but it's very nicely done. The glaze is beautiful. It has these little birds on each side, at least that's what they look like to me, or little birds that are hand painted, because they're not exactly the same. You can see there's a difference in them. And there are a couple of marks on this piece. Now it has this little mark right here that looks like an M-A, M-H, something to that effect. I've looked for this mark. I have not been able to find any information on it. So if you happen to know or recognize that mark, please leave me a comment, let me know what that's about. And then here on the bottom that it says SCT 98, like the year. And hello, Tilly. Tilly decided to photobomb us. Say hi, Tilly. You want to sit there? You can sit there beside me. But anyway, the SCT 98 is imprinted on the bottom. So I'm not sure if that's the actual artist initials or what, I don't know. So if you know anything about that, please leave a comment. But I just really like the piece. I like the colors. From the year 98, it is technically vintage. It's not super old, but it is vintage. So I think it was $2. So I picked that up. All right, Tilly, you got to get down. Yeah. All right, the other thing I picked up from Goodwill was this, and this is a piece of Belleek, and you spell that B-E-L-L, what is it? B-E-L-L-E-E-K. And Belleek is a china and porcelain company from Ireland. I bet you could have guessed that from the little clover, because many of their pieces do have this little clover motif on it. Not all of them, but many of them do. And Belleek is typically this very pretty off-white, nice, pretty color. And it is a very fine looking porcelain. So it is marked as well. I've never seen a piece of Bleak that I knew was Bleak that was not marked. So it does have that mark on the bottom. I need to do a little bit of research on this piece. I'm not sure exactly what it is. If it's a vase, it looks like a candlestick holder to me with this little piece on the top, the way it does, the way it flares out. But that was $4, so I thought that was a good investment. All right. Now, on to the estate sale items. So I went to this estate sale, and the people whose house it was, the couple who had lived there, were former antique dealers themselves. They had a reselling business online. It said in the description of the estate sale. And so I picked up a roll of bubble wrap, like this ginormous bowl of bubble wrap for $5, which was, pretty cool, especially since I just used the last of my bubble wrap that I had the day before I left to go up to my mom's. So that was kind of fun. But that's my tip, is if you are shopping at estate sales, be sure you're on the lookout for not only things you can resell, but also things you can use in your business. I try to include thank you notes in my packages, especially the ones that I'm selling on Etsy, because they just kind of expect a little bit more personal level on some platforms. So when I put that thank you note in there, I have had several feedback comments of how nice it was to get a personal handwritten note. And so when I pick up thank you notes, if you go buy them at the stationery store, they're going to set you back several bucks. Cards are expensive these days. So when I'm at estate sales, I always check through the office area and look for thank you notes or boxes of thank you notes or just loose cards that I can use for those thank you notes. And I can pick them up for usually $1 or $2 for packages of, 8 or 10. So that's a pretty good deal. All right, the other thing I always look for at estate sales is, especially if I know that the people were collectors, I always hit the bookshelves looking for reference books. Now, this estate sale in particular, they did a lot of jewelry reselling, and I did pick up some jewelry. I'm not going to show that in this video, but I did pick up, I think, 3 pieces. One I know is a costume piece, but I just like the way it looked. The other 2, I'm thinking they may have a little bit more value than just as costume pieces. So I'm going to have a jeweler look at them, and then I'll do a video on jewelry because I do have several pieces I've picked up from a couple of different estate sales, and jewelry is something I know very little about. So that's why I'm going to go to an expert and take the things to a jeweler before I do a video about them, and that way I can share what I find out with you. Because I knew that this couple did a lot of jewelry, one of the things I found were some reference books on jewelry. So this is Popular Jewelry 1840 to 1940. Very nice full color reference book. Has some great things in it. This one is mid-century plastic jewelry. Now, today we kind of think of plastic as really cheap and not very desirable, but mid-century plastic was still fairly new, and they were finding different uses for it, finding new ways to use it, and it offered a lot of that color and brightness that we think of when we think of that mid-century era that they did not have in the other materials they had used up to that point. So it doesn't have the same connotation in mid-century jewelry as we might have of it today. So this was a really interesting book for me, and I was really glad to see that. And then I also got this one, Costume Jewelry. This one is a hardback, and it says A Practical Handbook and Value Guide. Now you'll notice up here it says 2006 values. So these are going to be pretty outdated. And with the internet, prices tend to fluctuate quite a bit in very short periods of time. So when you find the books like this that have values in them, you don't necessarily want to base your prices and your purchases on those values because they are outdated. However, they can still be useful. So let's say that you see a piece in here that is valued at $100 and then another piece that's valued at $10. Even though those actual values may not still be accurate, you can still pretty safely assume that the $100 piece is going to be worth a much higher value in today's market than the $10 piece. So you can still use it as a comparative guide, just don't use it as an absolute value guide. So that's my tip for those. And then the other book I picked up was this on Enesco. And Enesco was a company that did a lot of imports of collectibles, figurines, little china and porcelain figures. They did have a line of lady head vases, which I love. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have to tell Jeffrey that. Anyway, I just saw a little boot and doggy that on another channel, another reseller had picked that up in one of his recent hauls. So I just now noticed that. But anyway, this one helps you identify different things. I like it because Enesco, a lot of their items, as we can see, that one probably had a sticker on it when it was initially sold. Stickers fall off, especially since it's been, 50, 60, 70 years since they were sold. And so this helps you identify things. It also has a very nice section on their lady head vases, which I collect, so I was excited to find that. So at this estate sale, their books hardbacks were $2 and paperbacks were $1. So for these 4 books, 3 paperbacks and a hardback, I only spent $5, which I thought was a deal. Now, a lot of people will say, I don't need books. I don't want a reference book. I can find all the information I need online. I don't want to have books. And if you're happy with all the information online, I'm not going to tell you you need a whole library of reference books. That's fine. But I personally like to dig a little bit deeper. I like to know a little bit more about the items I'm selling. And I also like to use what's called primary sources. So when I am trying to identify pieces, value pieces, maybe date them, find out a little bit more details about them, I don't always trust the information just in other listings like eBay or Etsy listings, because I don't know where that person got the information. I'm not saying those sellers are being dishonest. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that they're wrong. A lot of times I use those as a starting point to do my own research, but I do like to go back to more what I call the primary source, which would be a book written by an industry expert, a website that would be either from the company themselves or a collector's club, or maybe there's many of the universities and stuff have history websites that have information on different companies. So things that are more historical, more academic, more recognized professionals in the field, those are things that I consider a primary source in this instance, instead of an eBay or Etsy listing. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving out accurate information. And again, I'm not saying those people are not. It's just I feel better knowing where I got my information from. And books are a good way to do that. The other thing I like about books is instead of just researching a piece that I have already in front of me, a lot of times I'll just sit down and grab one of the books out of my collection and I'll start reading about it. I'll just start reading a section on different makers. I'll learn about manufacturers that I'm not familiar with. This is one that I never had heard of before, the B. Steinberg Koslow, and I actually had picked up some of these pieces not long ago, so this helped me learn more about a maker I wasn't familiar with. And I wouldn't have known to look for had I not necessarily read through some of these things. But I like doing that because if I just read through something that I'm not familiar with, I'm learning, I'm getting more information on things to look at when I'm out shopping, and it broadens my opportunities. So, don't discount the books, especially if you can get them for $1 or $2 a piece. They'll pay off. All right, so now I got to show you this guy. One of the things I have been wanting for a while is a purple cow. I love cattle. I love cows. I grew up showing beef cattle. My cows were not purple. My cows were red. They were Santa Gertrudis. But I just love purple cows. And I've been on the lookout for one for a while. And I found this guy at an antique mall in Arlington. And I believe it's the biggest antique mall I've ever seen. If you're in Arlington, it is just off of South Cooper, just south of I-20. So be sure and check it out, because it's leave almost a whole day, because it took me several hours to get through. This guy, I can't remember, he was less than $10, but he's going in my personal collection, and I just think he is very adorable. And he does have that sticker that said that he was a souvenir, but it doesn't say from where. So I don't know if it had been there and gotten rubbed off, or it just was never there. And this is a bull. See, he's got his little ring in his nose. And so he needed some ladies. And at a different antique mall, this was at the Grapevine Antique Mall, I found him a set of ladies to keep him company. And this is a sugar and creamer set. And you can see she actually looks like she's singing to me. The little creamer does. And she's so cute. So she has her little bell and her little eyelashes. And then her little partner here is she's laying down. I don't know if she's sleeping or what, but she has a bell and she has a nice little, I love how her little tail comes up on top of the dish. Now they're not marked. I don't know who made them. Need to do a little research on them, but they're not going anywhere. They're staying here, so, and I think they're adorable and cute just the way they are, so it really doesn't matter. This is one of the buy what you love kinds of things. So my little bull, and he is a planter, by the way. He has an opening here, but he's not a creamer because he doesn't have any way to pour it out. But he is adorable. All right. Now, one of the other things that I picked up, again, this is a third antique mall I went to. This was a vintage purse, and it has this, I call it a slinky style little handle here. But what I really loved about this purse is the way the clasp opened. It just kind of popped it up there, if you can see it. You lift up on that and it pops open. And this has these little shell pieces on it. Unfortunately, it is missing a few of the shells across the top, and there's actually one that was down in the purse. But I still think it's very pretty, very nice, very heavy vintage beaded purse. It does not have a maker on the inside. It does say handmade in Belgium. But this inside is very clean. It's in very good shape. I did not see any defects or anything on it, besides where the shells were missing on the top. But the beading itself is in very good condition. So I just thought that was a really neat little evening bag. Very cute. One of the things I picked up at an estate sale while I was up there was this cookie jar. Now, I was so excited to find the cookie jar because this is my first in the wild Bartlett Collins. Now, when I consider in the wild a thrift store, an estate sale, a yard sale, something like that. Not some place that is curated, which would be like an antique mall or something. Online resale like eBay, not in the wild. But some place where it's just kind of out there, you know, you take the items are not picked for resale. That's what I considered in the wild. So anyway, this is a Bartlett Collins cookie jar. It does have the lid, which it's oftentimes difficult to find the lids in good condition with the cookie jars. And it is not marked, so it doesn't say anywhere that it's a Bartlett Collins. So you just kind of have to know this distinctive look. These are very collectible. They do have, they're not worth a whole lot, but people do love them. So they're pretty easy to flip. A lot of them have a different colored glass, and then the painting is on the glass. They're usually hand painted. There's some that have flowers. There's some that have roosters. There's some that have the fruit. And a lot of times they will have a colored glass background instead of this clear glass. You can see it has cherries on the back side. But anyway, the clear is not my favorite. But since it was my first find in the wild, I did have to pick it up. And it was $8 for that, which was a really good deal for Bartlett Collins. All right. So, speaking of some other things that I picked up, the same estate sale that I got the Bartlett Collins at, I picked up this little dish. This is a Pyrex. And it is, if you look on the bottom, one of the ways you can kind of tell the age of Pyrex is the type of the mark on the bottom. Now this one has the square mark, which is a newer mark. I believe they used this after late 70s and after, and then they stopped making the colored Pyrex in the 80s. So this is called Flame Glow, and you can see how it kind of has almost an ombre look where it goes from a darker to a lighter orange, kind of a terracotta. And one thing you will notice about this is it's kind of dull. Let me show you another piece of Pyrex that I have here for comparison. If you can see how shiny this Pyrex is and how dull this one is. This one has a nice sheen to it when the light hits it, and this one almost looks like it has a film over it. And a lot of people look at this and say, oh, I can clean that film off and it'll be shiny again. Now, what happened with this dish is it's what's Pyrex collectors called DWD, or dishwasher damaged. When you put Pyrex in the dishwashers, especially when dishwashers first came in vogue, the dishwashing detergents that were used were much harsher, and they wreaked havoc on vintage dishes. So if you use vintage dishes of any kind, not just Pyrex, be sure that you do a little research before you put them in your dishwasher, and make sure that they're safe to be put in the dishwasher, and also do a little research into what kind of detergent is best to use with them so that they don't get damaged from the dishwasher and the detergent. But this guy is never going to be shiny again like it was when it's new. It might get cleaned up a little bit, but the dishwasher took its toll on this. Now there are some tricks you can do if you're just going to display a piece. Some people will oil them with different things. You know, I'm okay with them being damaged. I don't have this one, so I picked it up. I think it was $3. I picked it up because I don't have a piece of Flame Glow. It is unique in that it's the only one that has this ombre look to it. So I wanted it in my collection for that reason. But as soon as I find another one, this probably will go in my cabinet to be a workhorse, and we'll use it instead of being in my collection. So I already showed you this piece. This is from the Verdi set of casserole dishes, the 480 set. And these are 2 of the 3 dishes that came in that set. And they are marked on the bottom with the round Pyrex mark, if you can see. And this one is marked 475. And this one is marked 474. All right, and then the 473 would have been the 3rd one in this set. And then they also came with their lids. Yay! And so I picked these up at the Grapevine Antique Mall. And I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but I very rarely buy Pyrex at an antique mall unless it's a really good deal. And because of the condition of these and the price they had on them, I can tell you I thought it was a good deal or I wouldn't purchase them. Now, just to let you know, their Pyrex had 2 sets of casseroles. The round casseroles. They had this set that was the larger dish, the medium dish, and a smaller dish, the 473, that went together. And then they had a set that were the same size as far as diameter, but they got shallower. So that was the 471, the 472, and the 473. But the same size lid fit on all those. That was considered the 470 casserole set, and this one where they actually got gradually bigger was considered the 480 set, even though the numbers are 473, 474, 475. And you'll notice I said 473 as part of both sets. So the 473 was the biggest in the 470 set and the smallest in the 480 set. So there's a little bit of Pyrex info for you. And by the way, here's another be on the lookout for you. When you are in thrift stores, look for these in the platter and plate section, because people don't realize that these little things right here are actually lids for Pyrex. They think they're a serving platter or something. And you can tell that they're Pyrex lids because they actually will say Pyrex. I don't know if you can see that right there. It says Pyrex. And then it will have that number that I just was talking about on the other handle. So that will tell you which casserole that it fits. And lids are very valuable because these get chipped very easily along the corners of the handle and also along this little lip. So people are always looking for replacement lids. So if you see those at Goodwills and stuff, pick them up. Be sure to be on the lookout.